Can't The Miz and Daniel Bryan just get along? Welcome back to the ACB Wrestling Talk channel, your main source for wrestling news, topics, discussions, previews, all that kind of good stuff. I'm your host, Alexis Carrillo, and tonight is the go-home episode of Smackdown Live on the road to Survivor Series, so you can expect the episode to revolve around the men's Survivor Series team, the women's Survivor Series team, the tag teams Survivor Series team, whatever that is, and possibly a pretty rare appearance from the United States champion Shinsuke Nakamura, who, if you did not notice, also has a match at Survivor Series. But let's get back to the men's Survivor Series team. I was about to say men's national team. Nope. Men's Survivor Series team. Already comprised of team co-captains The Miz and Daniel Bryan. You've got, of course, Samoa Joe and the Master of the 619, Rey Mysterio. And you've got the best in the world in Shane McMahon. Now, you already know how I feel about Shane McMahon. You already know how I feel about him, having him be a part of big storylines, having him actually wrestle, and having him actually, when he wrestles, actually put up a damn good fight against the active wrestlers who do this on a day-to-day basis. You know how I feel about that. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it, and I don't condone it, and if it were up to me, it would not happen. Fortunately for WWE, it's not up to me, because, as I've always said, in terms of entertainment, this is just a show, and as fans, we are not in control of what happens on that show. Last week, we've got a little bit of dissension on the Smackdown side of things in terms of the men's team, something that usually happens when you pair heels with faces, and, you know, we saw it last night on Raw as well. You know, McIntyre and Ziggler wanted to get Finn Balor, they wanted to beat him down, so the same thing would happen right here on Smackdown Live. Only this case, we have a Daniel Bryan who was confronted by Joe, obviously. They're apparently building up a feud amongst them, between them, towards the future after Survivor Series, and Daniel Bryan just wasn't taking it. He attacked them, put him on the yes lock. The Miz, being the co-captain of the team that he was, broke him off, saying that we need to protect Team Smackdown on the road to Survivor Series. And Daniel Bryan attacked The Miz, and Shane McMahon came up and tried to prevent all of this from happening. Bryan attacked him too, and I popped big for that one, you know that. So what's going on with the Smackdown team going into Survivor Series? We'll just have to wait and find out on tonight's episode of Smackdown Live. But as far as the segments from last week, you know, having Daniel Bryan and The Miz be on the same page, be on the same team, have all that kind of segments and being, you know, pretty friendly with each other. That was a little bit weird, a little bit strange to see that unfold on screen, but still entertaining, which at the end of the day is ultimately what WWE wants. Now, heading back to last night's Raw, we all witnessed how the man, Becky Lynch, Smackdown Women's Champion Becky Lynch, led an invasion to Monday Night Raw by all the Smackdown ladies. All the Smackdown superstars appeared there. We first witnessed her applying the disarmor on Ronda Rousey. Then she came out and attacked the hell out of every single Raw woman except Alexa Bliss, because she can't bump right now because of her concussions. But the thing is, it was one of the most exciting endings to Monday Night Raw in quite a few weeks and quite a few months, really. And it's a little bit strange because this is the go-home Raw to Survivor Series. This is a go-home week to Survivor Series. So, yes, we were obviously expecting a Smackdown invasion of Raw. And tonight we will be expecting a Raw invasion of Smackdown. That is what is expected. That is, you know, the norm in terms of this whole battle for brand supremacy they have going on. But they changed it up. They gave the women a chance. They had the women superstars close out the show, and they had the women superstars with the invasion. Now, how will Raw react? Now, like I said, Raw, the Raw women superstars will come out and invade SmackDown, being led out by the self-proclaimed goddess Alexa Bliss, and we will have that segment to end the show pretty much in a standoff. I don't think they're going to have SmackDown go over or going to have Raw go over on tonight's episode of SmackDown. It's going to be a standoff, and then we're going to find out who indeed is the top dog at Survivor Series in terms of brands. But another question being asked on the official SmackDown Live preview for tonight's episode of SmackDown Live is the fact that, will Charlotte be the captain of Team SmackDown? Will she join Team SmackDown towards Survivor Series? And I found that question very interesting because if you recall from last night's invasion of Raw, Charlotte Flair was indeed a part of that invasion, which just seemed very unnatural to me. It seemed, again, with this word, I keep saying it on this episode of the SmackDown preview, but again, it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. Weird. It was strange, because Charlotte Flair had not turned up last week on SmackDown, and she had rejected Paige's offer to be the captain of Team SmackDown on 2 weeks ago on SmackDown Live. So it was kind of strange and weird to have her come out and join the ladies of SmackDown, beating down Raw. Now, what I would have had, and I know what I say about fantasy booking, it's all fantasy, it's not going to happen, and you have no control over it, but what I would have had, if it were up to me, was have Becky Lynch lead all of the SmackDown Women superstars into Raw, except Charlotte Flair, because even without Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch and the SmackDown Live women superstars would have the quote-unquote element of surprise. Of course, we were all expecting an invasion of this sorts on last night's episode of Raw, and they would have had the upper hand on Raw, and it would have ended the exact same way as it did last night, with Becky Lynch standing tall with her SmackDown team standing tall alongside her. And then, on tonight's episode of SmackDown Live, we could have had Paige not only worrying about the fact that, yes, it would be perfectly fine to expect a Raw invasion for tonight's episode of SmackDown, but you would have had her also worrying about the fact that Charlotte Flair was nowhere to be found. You would have had her worried about the fact that Charlotte Flair would not be the team captain going into Survivor Series, and that's pretty much how the whole episode would be revolving around that kind of plot, that kind of story. And of course, we get to the main event. The Raw invasion begins with the women superstars coming out and attacking the SmackDown women superstars who are already in the ring expecting this invasion, because that's what they should be doing. And you have him go head to head. And, meanwhile, possibly you have Alexa Bliss doing her magic work on that mic, putting the SmackDown team down, talking about how they don't have a team captain, talking about how they are not on the level of Team Raw, and then you hear the familiar woo, and Charlotte Flair comes out. And like I said, it's not going to end up with Team SmackDown going over. It's not going to end up with Team Raw going over on tonight's episode of SmackDown Live. You just have it end on a standoff, and you have Tom Phillips talk about how Charlotte Flair is not going to be a part of Team SmackDown, and, end the episode on that high note. Again, that's fantasy booking, and because Charlotte Flair was a part of the invasion last night on Raw, that might not be able to happen. Or it might be able to happen. It's WWE land. Whatever works for them will work for them because it's their show. So, that's my fantasy booking of what I would have had for tonight's episode of SmackDown Live in terms of the women's invasion. Going on, we have a SmackDown Tag Team Survivor Series 5-on-5 Tag Team Elimination Tag Team match at Survivor Series. Do you keep up? So apparently we're going to have 5 tag teams from Raw teaming up, that's 10 men, versus 5 tag teams on SmackDown Live teaming up, that's 10 men, facing off at Survivor Series in a traditional Survivor Series elimination match. Again, as far as excitement for this match, not really. You know, this is just, at least for me, this is just filler. This is just to put these guys on the card, to put these guys on the show. And we've got the Raw side of things. We've got the Ascension. We've got Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, who are the team captains on that side for some reason. They've won the Battle Royale. Anyway, you've also got the Revival on that side. You've got, damn. You know, it's hard to remember the Raw Tag Teams because the Raw Tag Team division has pretty much been in shambles for months. So, and on the SmackDown side of things, you got the New Day, you got the Usos as the team captains, and WWE is previewing the fact that who's going to join them. And it's pretty obvious. There's only 3 tag teams left on the SmackDown roster. You got the Good Brothers, who haven't appeared on SmackDown in quite some time. You have the Colognes, who haven't appeared on SmackDown in even longer. And you have Sanity, again, a tag team who hasn't appeared on SmackDown for quite some time, other than last week with that awesome entrance for Nikki Cross, which, you know, just as a side note, I don't think Nikki Cross is part of the main roster yet, because if she was, she would have most likely been a part of the Raw Invasion last night. But, hey, you know, this just came up to my head, you know, light bulb. What if Nikki Cross is the one who appears at the end of tonight's episode of SmackDown Live, and, you know, with that standoff. Anyway, and finally, you got Nakamura, the U.S. champion, who has been pretty much non-existent on SmackDown Live for the entirety of his reign, and now WWE expects us to believe that he could have a chance of beating Rollins at Survivor Series, but hey, again, it's WWE. What are you going to do? So that's the SmackDown preview for tonight's episode of SmackDown Live. Make sure you tune into the USA Network to watch SmackDown Live tonight, to watch what happens between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. You damn well better expect a confrontation between the two on tonight's episode of SmackDown Live. Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions and fantasy booking for tonight's episode of SmackDown Live on the comment section below. If you follow wrestling news, topics, discussions, previews, all that kind of good stuff, consider subscribing. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. That's it for me. Till next time.